All right, fucking live. I don't yet see it on my computer, but we're live. What up, everybody? I don't give a fluff. Episode 2. We're doing it today for sure. Uh, what I'm going to be talking about today is, usually, same old bullshit. Really, probably gonna get demonetized for letting that one slip within the first 30 seconds, but whatever. It is what it is. Uh, groupthink. Groupthink. Twitter, speech, crime, policing, America, Russia, and the insanity we face. Now, I got some feedback on the last podcast, and a lot of people were saying that they found it hard for me to. They basically just called me out for not being able to focus on what I was talking about. And look, here's the thing, guys. I'm doing this podcast from my phone right now. I have a soundboard. I have multiple cameras. I have all the equipment necessary to make a podcast possible. I produced podcasts for friends in the past. It's where I got my start at. And what happens a lot of time with technology is, for one thing, technology is just growing so infinitely quickly that it's really hard to tell where you stand in the race, in the the technology arms race. And so yeah, my computer's a little outdated, so and there I'm having some firmware issues, so I'm not able to capture like I want to capture. I'd it would be a lot easier for me to do the things I wanted to do if I could run OBS from my computer and be able to do my layovers and capture my screen and do those things. But right now, my computer can't handle it. I'm still working on firmware updates and so on and so forth. So until then, this is how we're stuck filming for right now. And I don't have a problem with it. I need to be putting out more content. That's all it is. So that's what we're doing. We're putting out the content. I Right now I'm not working. Let's not pretend that I don't need to get back to work, but I'm not working, and since I'm not working, I'm creating content. So that's what it is. We'll start off with that. Or that's the forward. What we're going to be starting off with is just talking about. I'd hate to steal a line from a TV show, but you know what really grinds my gears? Groups. Fucking sick of groups. Like me, myself, and I don't have a lot of friends. Don't care to have a lot of friends. Don't care for a lot of people. And I think part of the reason that I'm so nihilistic in those senses is just because of the fact that like nobody, like when I look around, I don't see people I don't see people going out of their way to be an individual. I see them going out of their way to be a part of a group. Why? Why? We live in the greatest country on the face of the earth when it comes to being an individual and being who the fuck you want to be. Why do you want to be like everybody else? I don't understand it. I don't get it. I get, and we'll be going I'll get on Twitter next, but I'm just going to use let's start with the LGBT group. All right? When you think about groups, I think we can say, like the LGBT community, if that's what you want to call them, because right now they're more like warring factions between themselves. But that community, like in the beginning, it was a good thing. It was a net positive. People looked at it as people fighting for what they thought was right, for rights that, in my opinion, they already had. But and that's me saying that. This is my channel. I say what the fuck I want to say. I don't give a fuck about anybody's feelings, let alone my own. So I don't give a fuck. But all this groupthink, like we see it right now. It's happening. It's unfolding in front of our eyes. You know what I mean? When we look at movements, like people like people like to pick on Dave Chappelle. You know, the LGBT community had a real big tiff with him about jokes that he was doing about a specific part of that community that struck a nerve. Well, number one, those people have no sense of humor. And number two, they're just disconnected from reality. He wasn't like really making jokes about those people. He was making jokes about the situations that these people just particularly put themselves in. His last special was literally dedicated to a transgender person. Nobody talks about Daphne Dorman. That was her name. Remember that fucking name, because she was one of the first proponents of the trans movement. So I don't want to hear from anybody trying to call me out. You can shut the fuck up. Learn something. Quit being a part of the Twitter group mob and coming after me on little nitpick shit like that. That's just the whole group thing has just run amok of everything. It's to the point now where it's like you can't take any group seriously anymore. And we have so many groups, it's hard to even find. I don't want to try and find a group I can be a part of. I have a group. My group's called me. I don't give a fuck about anything else. And I say that people need to understand that yes, there are things that I care about. There are definitely people in my life that I care about. I'm a father. I care deeply for my child. I love my child. I love my family. I love the friends that I have. But in particular, if we're not being specific about the people I'm talking about, generally, I don't give a fuck about what you think, what group you belong to, blah, blah, blah. If I meet you and I find you interesting, I'm going to want to have a conversation with you. And, you know, that's what it is. I see people on an individual basis. I don't give a fuck about what group you're a part of. All right. That's it. Period. End of that conversation. Don't want to hear nothing else about your fucking group. I just don't want to hear it. Like, identify with me on an individual level. The only time I want to hear from a group is if I go confront a group, and I've been known to do it. I'm I'm not not trying to brag, but I'm a ballsy motherfucker. I'll tell you straight to your face what I fucking think about you. Period. I don't parse words. I write fairly well, and I have a pretty good vocabulary, but I'm too blunt to dig through my thesaurus to make a point. That's it. Like that's where I'm at. Fuck your group. I don't give a fuck about your group identity. If I can't identify with you on a personal level, then I don't give a fuck. If you're not going to come at me from an individual level, I don't want to hear from you. Because it's not me versus you, it's me versus your group, and I'm not interested in that. Have a singular idea. Don't give me the idea. And that's another part of this whole group thing that just kills itself. I don't have to do anything. These groups can't even get their own shit together. They'll fight amongst themselves. That's what's hilarious to me. When you look at groups, you look at political parties, any of this shit, gangs, anything that involves groups of people, they can't agree because that's what we do. We're humans. We see everything through kind of a subjective lens, through our own lens. And that's why, it's important to know what the truth is. People have been given their truth, and we have started ignoring the truth. That's part of the big ass fucking problem. And where a lot of that stems from is just this idea that groupthink actually works. Like, I understand what democracy is a form of groupthink. That doesn't mean anything to me because it's not applied and it's not applicable in this context. Like, we're not people aren't putting it to a vote. They're just claiming that their ideas are better, and either you submit to those ideas or you're a bigot. That's not a healthy way to have discourse. That's not a healthy way to live. at all. Period. So fuck your groupthink. I don't give a fluff, bro. Straight the fuck up. And that puts us on to Twitter. Twitter. Now I'm not real big on social media. I was off of Twitter for a long time. I joined in 2012, but I never really used Twitter to engage with other people at the level that I do now. And it's gotten so bad for me now that I put a 1 hour timer on my phone to stop myself from looking at Twitter because it's so easy for me to see. And I'm constantly, anytime, my last real big engagement was tiffs that I had with people because of a post from Gavin Newsom. I mean, Gavin Newsom is a terrible governor. That's why people are fleeing the state of California and moving to states like Texas, where I live, because Gavin Newsom and the things that he and the group think that his people believe that it's okay. They were like, oh, well, crime's down. Actually, no, crime has remained stagnant throughout the last 10 years in California. Besides the fact that, they say their population is increasing, it's remained pretty stagnant. The post that in my head, I did some math and I was like, well, if the last census data is from 2019, so they've obviously lost people since then. A lot of people have moved out of California. So whatever. You know what I mean? I got that stat wrong, but what I said in my tweet was more just dealing with the fact that he's like, well, we passed these laws, and these laws, and I basically called them out. I was like, you're passing these laws, but your fucking DAs and your prosecutors aren't charging people with crimes. And not only that, but like, how are we supposed to trust these numbers about violent crimes if your DAs and prosecutors are not prosecuting those crimes? It's a fucking sham. And it's people that think like him and the diehard fans of his that keep perpetuating all the bad shit that's happening in California right now. Elon Musk left. They hate him right now, and we can talk about that. We'll get into that here in just a second, but they hate him. You see that they took Tesla off of this list about environmental safety regulations, blah blah blah. I don't know all the details of that. All I know is that Tesla got passed up when they're one of the most uh, environmentally conscious companies on the face of the earth. What they're doing is trying to save the earth, and they didn't even get credited for that this year. So it's a bunch of trash. But Twitter in itself, I've noticed, like I said, I had to throttle myself from getting on Twitter so much because I can't. It's not that I can't deal with it. It's just that when I get on Twitter, it's a mob every time. Like, I speak for myself. I make a comment, and sure, I'll get plenty of engagement, plenty of retweets, plenty of quote tweets, whatever. But a lot of the comments that I get are just pure hate. They all want to speculate. Oh, you must be a Trump supporter. Bro, you don't know a fuck about me. I didn't even vote in the last election. The election before that, I voted for Gary Johnson, and that dude is a fucking joke. I'm really hopeful for the Libertarian Party in the next coming couple of years. I'm ready to see what our new chairwoman, Angela McCardle. Shout out to the Libertarian Party. I'm really excited to see what we do, and of course, it's going to be an interesting midterms to see what happens in that. But as far as Twitter is concerned, I mean, we have these issues with all these groups, the groupthink, the vitriol, and I mean, I think that really comes with the territory. That's just Twitter. Got to deal with it. But it all comes down to, right now, of course, in the news recently was that Elon Musk was going to be proposing to buy Twitter. And he basically was like, look, it's not a free speech platform when you guys are censoring everybody, blah, 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 blah. He's got his points, and I agree with him on those. I don't have a Facebook because it's so political and just fucking trashy. I found myself being really depressed on it. And I got rid of it. I feel a lot better about myself having gotten rid of it. As far as Twitter is concerned, I've realized that since I've actually started using it, I've become more angry and more antagonistic in my approach when I'm having discussions with people, and that's on and off Twitter. Like, so that's the reason why I thought of myself from that, because it's having a direct impact, and this is important on just a more mental health issue at large. Anyways, in our country, social media is a huge problem. We're not dealing with it. We're not saying anything. We're letting them get away with misinformation, this, that, and the other. Nobody debates that shit. But what we don't talk about is just the fact that, like, it is pervasive in our culture. As Americans, like, we don't appreciate human contact. And this may be true more broadly around the world, but I live in America, so of course I'm going to look how it affects me, and I just don't see people really having conversations amongst themselves anymore, like person to person. A lot of it is via text on apps like Twitter and Facebook, and like there's a lot of context that's missing from when you have these conversations. You can't see people's bodies, you can't read body language, you can't see facial expressions, so jokes can get twisted out of context real quick. Context is key, and there is no context when it's just text. That's the, like I mean, there can be when it's deliberate, but a lot of, people speak with nuance and so on and so forth, so it's really hard to pinpoint what is a joke, what's true, who's being facetious, who's being sarcastic. Like, it's really hard to tell, and Twitter really embodies those issues, and in my opinion just make as grand idea as Twitter is being the public square, as Elon Musk refers to it as, it's hard for me to look at it as a net positive. But that's just me personally. You know what I mean? I thought of myself from using um Twitter because I think it's harmful to my mental health. It's not going to be the same for everybody. That's a subjective way to look at it. But I think if we look at it objectively, I think social media has a negative impact overall in in human health, just period. We can't really talk about cyberbullying, and I had that discussion with my kid. I was like, look, cyberbullying is kind of bullshit, because people can cyberbully you for anything. They don't have they because they don't run the risk of actually bullying you in real life. It doesn't give them any opportunity. It gives you no opportunity to sure, you can talk back and forth to each other, but it doesn't prove anything. Online bullying to me is just, it's dumb. The idea of it's dumb. For you to be offended by somebody that you don't know, who doesn't know a fucking thing about you, but cry some more, dude. You're pitiful. But bullying's a crime. Bullying is a crime. It's like assault. I mean, it might not be a crime, but I mean, in a lot of cases, it's considered assault. And that brings me on to the third thing I wanted to address in the podcast today, which is crime. Like, crime is out of control right now, dude. You see all these reports. If you watch the news, it's fucking mass shooting after stabbing, after nightclub attack, after woman gets dragged out of the hospital from which she works by some crazed fucking homeless person. Like, that's all the news. It's fucking disgusting. It's depressing, and it's all crime. Like, what happened? And I'm a fairly pro police person, even with my past and being a victim of police brutality. I don't like being looked at as a victim. So I put those quotation marks there because, I mean, the fact is, yes, I was brutally attacked by the police, but I don't look at myself as a victim in this situation. I don't like the idea of putting that uh, prefix in front of my person, because yeah, I'm a victim, but that doesn't change anything, and it's not who I am. But crime is crazy right now, and the most unsettling thing about it right now is that people don't admit that it's happening. You have a media that is complicit, and you know what I mean. We have all these things, not particularly in Texas, but when I look at nationwide, we have people pushing for bail reform, things like that, that release criminals without bail, you know, and they're really subjective on who they pick and choose. It seems like when you look at somewhere like LA, where the DA there is fucking letting rapists and fucking murderers out, like, dude, what are you doing? And then they go out, reoffend, murder another person, and they get out. You just release them right back out into the world. What the fuck is wrong with you? What are you solving? You're the district attorney. Your job is to fucking prosecute criminals. You're not doing your job. And that's absolutely wild to me. It's fucking absolutely wild to me. I mean, crime has gone up. We saw what happened when, you know, George Floyd and Rittenhouse and Breonna Taylor. We saw the riots. We saw the crime. We saw people getting murdered. Nothing has changed really. It's all still the same. Cities might not be on fire right now, but people are fucking dying every day. Chicago's a fucking literally gangland. The mayor there doesn't give a fuck about what's happening in her city. It's on fucking fire. There's shootouts every day. 2 people die every fucking day. On average, 30 people die every fucking weekend in Chicago. Where's all the reporting on this shit? There is none. There is none. They don't care. They only care if it's expedient towards the narrative that they're trying to push, and that's, you know, we'll save the media for another day. But that shit to me is just wild. Watermelon King bomb with some purple goat and some Durban poison. Really heady, good sativa, great for thinking, and relatively fucking fresh, straight from a good source. So I'm pretty happy with it. But yeah, crime in America right now is absolutely atrocious, and it seems like nobody's really addressing it. Nobody's really addressing the mental health issues, and it's old. To be quite frank with you, tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of hearing people scream, "Do something about it," and then not doing nothing about it. Our politicians are saying that they haven't done shit for a long motherfucking time, bro. So I don't want to hear it. But we can't look at crime without looking at the other side, which is policing, which is the next topic I want to bring up. The one thing that people think about, or I'm not going to say the one thing, but one of the things that people think about when they think about America is the cops and how just atrocious the cops are. You know, and our media doesn't do us any favors in that department. Like I said, the media is always pushing a narrative, whether it's Fox News or however many other lefty channels you want to look at, I watch YouTube for most of my news. I watch actual like CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. I'll watch portions of those, and then I'll go to YouTube creators who actually follow the news and get their breakdowns. Shout out to Tim Pool. Uh, Shout out to the Daily Wire. Like even it, you can find objective journalists at all these different media outlets, but the media outlets themselves actually have a slant that they ride pretty hard. But that doesn't mean that every reporter is bad, that every story that comes out is bad and is not factual. It just requires you to do more in-depth research into what you're doing. And when it comes to policing, like all we ever hear about is the bad shit. And the same can be said about defensive uses of firearms. They count though when a person defends themselves and they kill the person that was trying to attack them, rob their house, whatever, and they use their gun in defense. That actually goes towards crime stats. It still counts as a homicide because it's usually ruled a justifiable homicide, but it still counts towards the stats. So they don't talk about that when they bring up these gun stats, and I don't want to, you know what I mean? You can argue with me about it in the comments or whatever, but that's the fact. Guns are bad. That's the narrative they want to push right now, and that's a power grab. They don't want you to have any kind of power over yourself. But and then we're expected to look at police nowadays. And it really depends on where you live. But if you look across the country and you think about all this crime that's happening, and you look at what the cops have been doing, what have they been doing? Harassing children at schools, arresting parents for not masking their kids, all this COVID bullshit. Like, dude, policing has become a joke. There's a reason why people don't want to be police officers anymore. Number one, they're terrified that they're going to be vilified for doing their job. And then the other half of them are the ones that are only there because it gives them some kind of power, some kind of weird, power fetish is fulfilled by their job at the police station. I've been a victim to cops like that. I got nearly beaten to death by two police officers while I was in a diabetic coma. I know what it's like to be abused by people in power. But not all people that we give the badge are bad. I will say that. I know some cops, they're good people. Well, on the same on the same coin, you know what I mean? They're cops, but they didn't come out, they stuck up for the brotherhood instead of sticking up for me when I was wronged by the police. So that says a lot, you know what I mean, about that group as it so would go. You know what I mean? They know a person in their group is wrong, but since they're a part of the group, they ain't gonna call them out. That's that group mentality. That's that non-individualism. That's what non-individualism gets you. Silence. And I'm just me. I don't have a big voice, so nobody cared about my story. Nobody cared about my story so much to the point where as of recently, I've stopped giving a fuck about my story. Nobody cares. I don't check the boxes of the normal victim, so my story does not fucking matter. That's life, dude. That's life. But that's policing for you. It's a joke. And it's this group tribal bullshit that has got us here because we have to respect. We don't treat people as individuals. We treat them as groups, and certain groups get preference. You know what I mean? y'all talk about white privilege. What do you think about trans privilege nowadays? You know what I mean? I'll let you think on that one. I'll let you think on that one. But now we come to America. My next bone to pick. America, you look like a fucking joke to the world right now. Everything that's going on. Like, I get on Twitter and I've got some followers from across the pond, people I follow from across the pond, people that just live in different countries in general. And the one thing that I've seen, like, see, I'm gonna forget what country this person lives in, but they live in one of the Nordic countries, which recently just banned puberty blockers for children. And you like, I don't know. That concept to me is like crazy because we're not having that conversation here in the States yet. We're still affirming this type of behavior. And let me be very clear. As long as I'm a libertarian, so as long as you're an adult, I don't give a fuck what you do in your pursuit of happiness. Just do it on your own time. If I'm interested in it, I'll fucking ask you about it. But otherwise, I don't give a fuck about what you do. Like in the drug war, let's legalize drugs. But despite what people will say, you do that, and that takes a lot of power from big pharma. It encourages uh, competition. It encourages competition. It encourages startups to get more interested in creating new drugs and applying science. You know, all this shit that we've been listening to the last couple of years that ended up locking us in our fucking houses, losing our jobs, having our children go crazy and pull all this fucking crazy shit. That's what we got. That's what we got. Now, I'm not blaming all that on the drug war, but I'm just saying that's what the drug war has. Those are the effects of the drug war. All this regulation and like you can pick a side, bro. I'm a libertarian. I'm not in the business of picking a side because like I said, in your adult life, do what you do. Your sexual preference, none of that shit matters to me. I don't care. I will never meet all any I will never meet everybody, so there is no way that I will ever give a fuck about everybody and what everybody is doing. Half the time I don't even give a fuck about what I'm doing. But I know that I shouldn't take other people's stuff. I know that I shouldn't hit other people. These things are like, I mean, that's just common sense, like good thinking. I yeah, my parents are Christian. I grew up a Christian. I'm agnostic now, but I see why religion is good in the sense that it teaches good morals, but it also divides us into separate groups, which causes more conflict. You see what I'm saying? I keep reflecting back to the same fucking point. Groups are the fucking problem, bro. Groups are the problem. And when we look at America, we're just all being divided. We used to have this single sense of like, we just want to be free, live free, fucking die free. There was a poll done recently, and it was really revealing to know that 63% of Americans don't think that the American dream is possible anymore. I wonder why. Because we have this concept of how our country is supposed to be run, and for the longest time it's been, there have been other parties, but it doesn't seem like anybody's been really serious about getting a message across to the American people that really resonates with them. This is why I have hope for 2024 and the Libertarian Party. I'll give a shout out to Andrew Yang and the Yang Gang and the Forward Party for starting their own party. Like, I just don't think that you need to create a state that gives out free checks to everybody. I'm not with that, bro. That's not what the government's here for. It's not to affirm me. All right? The government is not here to affirm me. In my eyes, the only thing the government can do for me is put me in shackles. We have the Constitution, we have the Bill of Rights. I don't, other than that, I don't need laws to tell me what to do. I don't need them. And besides all that, not only do I not need them, the people that rule us, our elites, our ruling class, they don't even follow the same fucking rules. And then when you look at other countries that are looking at us, they're looking at us and they're seeing that we are fucking dumb. We're dumb. We're the freest country on the face of the earth, but yet we're fucking fighting each other over like who says they're what they identify as sexually, what group they're with today. Are they a furry? Are they black? Are they Asian? Are they African American? Are they English Africans? Like, dude, I don't. How else are you going to try and divide us? When you're talking about people, like, I was listening to a stand up and it was funny because they were like, he made the point that somebody was saying, Idris Elba is an amazing African American actor. And they're like, yo, he's not American, he's British. That's exactly the point. Like, all these divisions, like, we're talking, they could have just said, Idris Elba is an amazing actor. But we have to split everything up like, oh, I get frustrated with this. Like, context is key. We don't have to separate everything out. I'll pick another one. Feminist, and in particular, radical feminist. Like, here's my problem. I want to be more equal. I want women to, like, as a man, I know there are certain things in my life, like I will never experience pregnancy. That won't happen. I don't understand it, and I never would. I never could put myself in that situation because I'm not a woman. You know what I mean? But I do know that it takes two people to create a baby. So excuse me for thinking that number one, and I've made this point, and I'm going to go ahead and state what my position is. I think abortion should be legal for any reason. Elective abortion should be legal up to 15 weeks. By 15 weeks, you should know. You should have decided. And but I also think that before you get a pregnancy or before you get an abortion, that a man should be able to say, "Hey, I want to have the baby." Now, this is the conundrum that I've run into with that idea, because the man can't have the baby. I've already said that, like, all right, this would have to be agreed upon by the woman. So it would still make it her decision whether or not she wants to have an abortion. But a man could say, hey, I really want a kid. And just like they require guys to pay child support after the children are born, I think a guy should have to pay for the pregnancy. If that's really if that's the argument that they want to make and they want to have a say, then fucking pay for it, bro. Pay for it. Because I myself, I don't want any more kids. I had my daughter, and I see the world that, like, we're living in currently, and I can't think of bringing another kid into this world with as crazy as shit is right now. I'm having enough of a hard time with my daughter. She's 13. and even she's been this gender ideology has been pushed upon her, and I, you know, I have to be a supportive parent, but I have to make sure that my child understands just basic reality, you know. And that might be offensive to some people, but basic biology, she's a female, that's what it is, you know. And honestly, I just told her, like, look, it might be a problem now, but not all problems are forever. Not all problems are solvable, but also not all problems are forever, you know? So just, don't rush to think that you need to change something about yourself because you're not happy with yourself. I'm never happy with myself, and I know that there's always room for improvement. But that's why I'm still alive, is because I know that there's still room for me to grow. Just like there's room for this country to grow. We already are the most free, and we are the freest country in the shortest amount of time that a country has ever been. That's America. Gives me fucking hope. Doesn't mean that I think the American dream is possible right now, though. It's going to take a lot to bring us back to that. And I say that just being honest. That's where we're at, and people are fucking laughing at us. Just like Russia is laughing at us, dude. Russia is laughing at us. They see our Marines Pride Month ad. They see our Air Force Pride Month ad. Here's the reality. They don't give a fuck about that shit in Russia. They look at that shit and they laugh. You know what I mean? And I don't think people are grasping at what's going on. Like, when I think of what's going on, like, this is really, literally, we're looking at what could possibly be World War III right here. We have the United States, Germany, and other Western countries bandoing up as NATO, and sending billions and billions of dollars. Just the USA spent 40 billion dollars worth of weaponry to the Ukraine. And come to find out, we sent some missiles. Now, and like, I'm not going to pretend to know it all, but I do know that I heard that someone in the Kremlin tweeted on Twitter, basically like, okay, we see America and other countries giving the Ukraine these long range missiles. What are those going to be used for? And besides that, just know that if we get hit by one of these missiles, we will hit targets that we have not hit yet, and they will be the centers of where decisions are made. So that doesn't mean that they're I mean, that's a veiled threat at anybody. So, like, and that's a fucking crazy reality to think about. You know what I mean? Like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why is it that important? And I know people are going to say, well, the Ukraine should be free. Look what we did in Afghanistan. We freed them, and then we let them fall right back. Like, people wanted to make this argument, like, on behalf of women, that I can appreciate. I can appreciate the fact that women are being stripped of their rights in Afghanistan right now. But look, dude, this was a person that lived in the UK that was complaining to me about what was happening to women in Afghanistan, when women in the UK have it relatively pretty fucking nice, dude. Don't compare your trauma, because your trauma is not comparable. That does nothing to advance any kind of conversation, bro. So Don't compare that. You know what I mean? So why should we be concerned about the Ukraine? It's a sad war is a sad thing and it's gonna fucking happen, dude. It doesn't mean that we have to be involved in it. You can say what you want, but it doesn't mean that we have to be involved in it. We have wars going on in our own country. The war on drugs, which targets me, which targets you, which targets everybody. You know what I mean? You get caught with a pill container, something like this, and you don't have your fucking pill bottle on you with your prescription information on it, you're going to jail, dude. Oh, you got a Xanax in there? Yeah, dude, I'm prescribed Xanax. I have PTSD from 2 officers whooping my ass. Yeah, I've got Xanax. Well, where's your prescription? I'm sorry. I leave the full bottle at the house. I never carry the full bottle with me because I'm never going to take fucking 120 Xannies at one time, officer. That would be really, really dumb of me. Come on, dude. America, you're making a joke out of yourselves like while countries look at this. You know what I mean? Y'all are putting us on the precipice of war that we the people don't want. Like we needed $40 billion worth of baby formula, bro, before we needed to send $40 billion to any other motherfucking country. I don't want to hear any other argument made about that. I don't want to hear any other argument made about that. As far as I know, we're the only country that's really facing a fucking baby formula shortage. I haven't seen any reporting on in any other country on any kind of fucking baby formula shortage. And I could be wrong. Somebody feel free to fucking correct me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's an American thing. Another reason why fucking Russia and our enemies laugh at us, dude. Look, all of this shit is fucking insane. If you get out of if you step out of your mind a little bit, if you step out of your box, out of your group, if you step out of those things and and look at things from way up high, and you look at what's going on right now, all of this shit is fucking crazy. Everything that's going on right now is it's fucking crazy. You can be one of those people that looks at everything and make yourself the victim of whatever you want to make yourself the victim of that day. There are people that live their fucking lives like that. I'm not one of those people. I'm a victim of real fucking shit. And nobody's letting me identify as that. That doesn't matter to them. So, like, it doesn't matter to me either. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about your identity. You know, if I don't know you personally, and I'm never going to give a fuck. And that's it. Like, the rest of it is just pure insanity. All this shit that we let divide us, we don't we don't look at the things that bring us together, like the good old MJ. I love her. We get together and things are always so sweet all the time. But we do so much to hate each other. It's so crazy to think that we don't do enough to love each other. And that's coming from a person that openly says that he hates everybody. You know what I mean? I do want to love people, but there's a reason why I hate everybody. You know what I mean? I love my mama, but you know, there's times I love my kiddo, but there's times it's a joke, people. I'm fucking joking. It's a joke. I don't really hate anybody. I hate people in general. I just hate the thought of people because of the time that we live in. That's my subjective truth. Everybody is hateable. That's my subjective truth. That's not the objective truth is that all people are lovable. That's the objective truth, right? All people are lovable. So I don't know. But on the same coin though, that also means that all people are hateable. So we're all in the middle, man. And that, like, I hate to be so, like, I guess they would call it a relativist. I relate everything, but I mean, and what else are you when you're what else are you left to do? When you have individual things, you must compare them, right? And it's just like how democracy works. You have an idea, and the ideas of that person or that party are what get them elected, you know? Because they are supposed to think for the majority of us and do what we the people want. But that's not how it works. So, as I come to a close, I just want to reiterate that groupthink is just fucking terrible. Twitter will make you more hateful if you're not careful with how much you consume, as will any other social media that you use, you know? And know that it's important to have intrapersonal relations with other people, or sorry, interpersonal. I said it and then my brain was like, yo, you fucked that up. Interpersonal relations with other people. Like, you need to be in person having interperson relations with people. And that doesn't mean that you need to be fucking them or whatever. You know, a lot of people will immediately jump to some stupid ass shit like that. But, like, it's important to have face to face conversations and really, you know what I mean, pick up on body language. You can really, like, you can tell when somebody's lying to you, when somebody's being forthright with you. Just, you know, you can get on YouTube and figure out how the FBI, down and to the left, and what signs show that people are lying. You know what I mean? Things that like whether or not a person. But I don't know. There's a lot. It's a lot harder. I think it's a lot harder to read body language nowadays, just because of the simple fact of, like, the amount of people that have trauma. Like, we live in a traumatizing time, but we're gonna be all right. All right. I don't give a fluff. It's been fun. I don't know how long it's been, but it has been fun, and I'll be ready to do it again next week. I think I'm also gonna be doing some more videos this week. I want to do a movie review, give my thoughts on Matt Walsh's "What Is a Woman." I also want to do a 5-year look back at um, the dash cam footage in which I was nearly beaten to death in. I want to watch it again. I want to react to it in real time and go through, my feelings after. I mean, know that now I'm kind of numb to it when I watch it, but I mean, I think that it'll be a good time to just kind of watch it together, and me be able to give you the sense of how I felt. I mean, I won't be able to tell you the sense of how I felt during the attack because I was in a diabetic coma. I don't remember any of that shit. I remember waking up, we can talk about the aftermath, but we'll look through the footage together and just see, and then you can tell me whether or not I'm just being a big ass pussy, or if you think the cops actually did me wrong. Like, that's all it is. That's all I want. That's all I've ever wanted. And you know, as Daphne Dorman said, I don't need you to believe me. I need you to believe I'm having a human experience. And I think that's something that everybody should hear. That was a transgender woman that said that. That was Dave Chappelle's friend, the person that special was dedicated to. That was something that she said, and I think it's a really provocative and insightful statement. So we'll leave it with that. It's been fun to have this podcast. I'm ready to see what kind of I need some people to like the video, to comment, to actually talk. Like let's have these conversations. Tell me if I'm alone. Don't tell me that. I know I'm alone in my own opinion, but let me know yours so that we can see where we agree on things. Like, that's what's important. Like, let's figure out where we agree on these things so we can start coming up with solutions that make all of us happy. That's what we have to do. You know what I mean? That's what it is. And I know not everything that I think is going to make me happy is going to make you happy. So we have to come to at least a general consensus, not this false consensus that we're fed every day. Like, we are not as divided as they push us to be. Just look at things objectively and stop looking through lenses of your own life. Because I have my own perspective on things. I know it's hard for me. Like, y'all, you can't think like I think just because of the things that I've been through. But that's me knowing that I also can't think exactly like you do. It's impossible because we all have different lived life experience. And we have to remember that we are all individuals at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what our group thinks. We're all individuals at the end of the day. I don't give a fuck. I'm out. It's been fun. It's been interesting too. I had fun in this one. So, and I only had one cup of coffee. I didn't even crack my Coke. Yeah. Fucking fuck yeah, right? We'll do another another one next week. We've got more content coming this week. Guys, just fucking love each other. Rock out with your whatever's out, Some chicks say clams out. Hang out with your wang out. I don't even know how other way. I'm sure there are other ways to say it, but do that. Have a good time. Be you. Do you. And don't give a fuck because you shouldn't really. You know what I mean? You are in control of your own happiness. Don't look for anybody else to affirm you. You have to be happy with yourself first. That's what's important. It's been fun, YouTube, but I'm gonna get a life.